Very good evening to Mkaya. 6 minutes past 6 here on Kaya FM 95.9. Our guest has been in court prosecuting names like Janusz Wallis and Clive Darby-Lewis, Jackie Salibi and Oscar Pistorius. My guest tonight on Kaya FM 95.9 is Advocate Gerrie Nel.
Talking from the heart. Today with John Perlman. Kaya FM 95.9.
Just before we get into the show, Mkaya, and before I tell you how you can engage with us and take part in the show, give us your calls and comments, let us just on behalf of everyone at Today with John Perlman extend our condolences to everyone close and connected to Joost van der Westhuizen. He's a man who filled us with great pleasure and great pride the many years of his career, and he will be sorely missed. The number to dial if you want to give us a call is 086 0000 959 36959 for text messages. By all means, send those. They cost R1.50. You can go to the Today with John Perlman Facebook page, by the way. There you can watch the show as well. We're doing a live screening there. Streaming, I should call it. Live streaming. Get the title right. And you can also follow me on Twitter at John Perlman. Advocate Nel, good evening and welcome to Kaya FM.
Good evening, Mr. Perlman.
Nice to have you with us. I'm going to come at some point to the reasons why you've been in the news. You've left the National Prosecuting Authority and you're going to be involved in a unit doing private prosecutions under the auspices of Afriforum. But before we do that, I want to get into something else. Obviously, you were well known before, but became extremely well known during the Oscar Pistorius trial. We discussed it at great length many times on this very show here on Kaya. My first question to you about that is, some people feel that that trial did something for people's understanding of the justice system in South Africa. I'd be interested to know your view as to whether that was positive or negative. Did we come away as a country with a better understanding of the law?
Without a doubt. I'm proud that I've been part of that particular trial. I was very surprised that people knew so little about the law. Mm-hmm. You know, when we started with this, at first, you know, that we both, Barry and I, opposed any application that this would be live on TV. But now, after the trial, I think it was a very, very good thing. The educational value it had was just tremendous.
While you were doing your work, particularly while you were doing cross-examination or leading your own witnesses, were you aware of the cameras at all?
Not at all. I never watched any of it at all. Not even where I'm sitting now. I haven't watched any of it. And no, when the court orderly walks in and everybody gets up and the judge walks in, it's business. You really have to focus. Nobody can tell you that you'll be aware of what's going on around you. You have to concentrate and focus.
Let's go back to where I started this particular part of the conversation and ask you this. I mean, South Africa has a society in which I think it's going to take a long time, just judging from the time I've spent at Kaya, a long time for people to feel that the law is fair, that the law is not still riddled with the historical legacies of the apartheid years, and the law is not poisoned in its present incarnation by money always providing you with better access to justice. How would you measure the distance we have to travel as a country in finding some acceptance for the law as the rule of law?
It's a very, very difficult question for me to answer, John. But what I would like to say is that I'm sure that people that watched the trial went away with the feeling that it's not a game. That when you get there, it's serious. People's lives are at stake. And that there's a strict discipline in everything we do. So, to answer your question, I would say a better understanding of all the intricacies of the law will just give people understanding that our criminal law, and that's the only expertise I have, is at a very good place.
Does money buy you better access to justice?
I don't think so. I don't think money buys you better access to justice because if you undefended, the state, that's the prosecutors, as well as the court, have an obligation to ensure that your rights are honoured. So, no, I don't think so.
I remember once going to a magistrate's court. I used to be a print journalist at the Star, so it was just around the corner. And when I was looking, waiting for the case to begin, there was a prosecutor with a stack of cases, trying to work out what was going to be coming through, trying to get photostat copies made. It seemed to me that if anyone had come in well armed, I don't mean literally, but well armed with a defense and a team of lawyers, that man or woman was going to be in a really difficult position. I know there's perhaps the underdog in you that feels it's an even fight, but is it really?
I would say it's not an even fight. The prosecutors are one up.
Yes.
I'm so proud to have been a prosecutor, and I'm so proud of our prosecutors daily.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. These are men and women that work in Pretoria and in Soweto and everywhere, prepare their cases after hours.
Yes.
And then come back into court. And you know that the NPA had for years now, a conviction rate of well over 80%. So they must be doing something well. And, for a prosecutor, I as a prosecutor would go to court and I'll do an average of 3-4 trials a day.
Yes.
Which a defense lawyer will do one a week if he's lucky.
Yeah.
So I just think that as far as our prosecutor is concerned, I'm extremely proud of our prosecutors, and I think they are doing an exceptional job.
What made you decide enough?
It's one of those things. I've got 5 to 10 years of my career left. Mm-hmm. I was then approached with an exciting prospect. I gave it, I considered it over a period of months. And then I just became excited. And I thought, well, in the last 5 or 10 years, let me create something that I think it's worthwhile, it's necessary. And John, as I'm sitting here, I'm excited about creating what I think is necessary.
Somebody who you may be working with, Paula O'Sullivan, is quoted, and I'll get the direct quote in a moment, but to paraphrase it, is saying this is going to be a parallel prosecution system which gets people very uncomfortable. Yeah. Do you need to have a word with Mr. O'Sullivan and suggest that perhaps he's not correct?
Well, he's not perhaps not correct. He's totally wrong. Totally.
Does he know this now?
Is he listening? Is he one of your...
No, I thought you might... I'll just give you the direct quote, by the way, out of Daily Maverick. He says, we will force the state to make a decision to prosecute, or if they decide that they're not going to prosecute, to issue a certificate that they're not going to prosecute it. And then we will cherry pick those cases. We will pick the ones that have the best evidence in them, and we will prosecute them ourselves. We will, in other words, run a parallel activity to the National Prosecuting Authority.
May I make it clear that if he refers to we, he's definitely not referring to me.
Yes.
I'm not part of that we. And I want to make it pertinently clear that this is not a parallel prosecution stream. There's only one prosecution authority. In terms of Section 179 of the Constitution, there's one prosecution authority in this country. Only once that authority decided not to prosecute will we have access to see if there are merits in it. So it's such a small amount of matters that we'll be dealing with. But if there's a matter where there was a decision not to prosecute and we think there's merit and we take it on and we're successful, then certainly we've created something.
You're well aware of the climate in which all these things play out, and the narrative that what Paul O'Sullivan, the way in which Paul O'Sullivan put it, plays into a narrative which says separate privatization of prosecution under the auspices of Afriforum, which wants separate universities for Afrikaners and would prefer to have Afrikaans language schools. Whether that indeed is exactly the case, there is a feeling that this is related to an Afrikaner initiative to create something separate, having lost a separated society 20-something years ago. I'm sure you're aware of this narrative, and what are your thoughts on how you contain that?
So people that would know me would know that I steered clear of the media for 36 years.
Yes.
I've never been in the media. I've never been a public figure as far as I could help it.
Yes.
That's why I'm here. Mm-hmm. It's just to create an understanding of what we're doing.
Yes.
And if there's any misperceptions, let's talk about it. Let's get it out in the open. Mr. Perlman, I would not sit here. I'm utterly uncomfortable in the media and the public glare, but I think it's important to really make sure that there are no misperceptions. And the one misperception is that there is no parallel prosecution stream whatsoever.
So let's talk then about the mechanics, Advocate Nel, of a private prosecution. My understanding, and having read something again from Daily Maverick, they seem to assist us with a lot of this stuff. The guidelines or the constraints within which you can launch a public prosecution appear to me to be extremely narrow. set those out for us and tell us how you think that might play out, because Afriforum has no statutory right to do that, not being a statutory body. They would, as I understand it, have to find an injured party, perhaps I haven't used the correct words, but a party who has material interest in this thing being brought before the law. How do you think that's going to play out? I mean, is there in fact a market for your services?
Indeed. I've said there'll be lots of challenges, and there indeed will be. I'm sitting in front of me with a judgment in the Constitutional Court in the matter of National Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals,
yes,
where this particular matter was argued. In this particular matter, I've read it, and I do think that there is scope to develop the law. Professor De Vos and lots of other people that are much more clever than I am about the law wrote lots of things. And may I just say that I appreciate all this criticism and everybody
yes,
talking about this, because it helps me to understand how people think about this. And it also helps me to gain a view of people looking from the outside in. I'm confident that we'll be able to do private prosecutions. There'll always be a party with a right. And if there's no party with a right, perhaps it's time to develop the law. It's been left open in this particular matter. I'm confident in the arguments that Corruption Watch had in this particular argument. And I think they're brilliant arguments that we would like to take forward.
One of the things you have to do is get a certificate from the National Prosecuting Authority saying, I'll probably get the pronunciation incorrect, noli prosequi, is that correct?
Noli prosequi, yeah.
Okay. Do you think one of your first cases will be to demand your certificates? Because, I mean, it sounds to me like you actually have to have a piece of paper in your hands.
Indeed.
The NPA may not be all that forthcoming. You know, they may not say, please drop around, I'll leave it at reception.
Indeed. It's very complicated, but if the National Prosecuting Authority decides not to prosecute,
yes,
and we approach them with an application for a noli prosequi certificate, then they have a second bite at the cherry. They can then decide, let's look at the facts again and let's prosecute. If they don't, they're obliged to give us a certificate.
Okay, so legally obliged. Here's another scenario. You start the private prosecution. They say, okay, this makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much. We'll run this thing. That I understand the law allows for as well.
Indeed.
So they could then send in me, fresh out of law school, not the quickest. Am I being paranoid? That could be a way of undermining a case that you launch?
I don't believe that they ever do that. I don't believe, sitting where I'm sitting, there's no prosecutor that would go into a trial willing to lose it. I think we just have that sense of justice. I've been asked that question.
Yes.
And I cannot think of any prosecutor that will go in there and try and lose a matter. You just don't do that. I'm going to be so bold as to say it's impossible. But anything in life is possible, but really, that's not one of the matters that I'm worried about.
086 00 959. Our guest is Advocate Gerrie Nel. We're talking about his decision to work with Afriforum in an initiative to develop private prosecutions in South Africa. There have been some before, but this obviously takes us in new directions and potentially interesting ones. You can also send us a text message, 36959. Those text messages cost R1.50. By all means, go to the Today with John Perlman Facebook page and post your comments there. And while you're there, by the way, if you want to watch the interview as well, we're doing a live stream on that. 23 minutes past 6, we're talking to Advocate Gerrie Nel. He's our guest tonight. You can call on 086 00 959. Solly's in Leondale. Hi, Solly.
Hi, John, and hi to Advocate Nel.
Hello, Solly.
Yeah, number one, I want to appreciate him for serving the country in the manner that he did for the whole of his career in the NPA. And then secondly, the problem, I think it came when it was announced that it's going to work with Afriforum because it is known for its character to be fighting to protect the interest of the Afrikaners. So that's why the problem, I think, we're having about his move. But the question that I'm having to him is that if maybe the EFF had the same idea as the Afriforum, could he take the offer?
Okay. Advocate Nel, a response?
Yes, the response to that is fairly easy. I was approached by Afriforum. I thought it was their concept. They were willing to fund it. No other organization approached me. If any other organization approached me, I would have considered it. I think it's the concept that drew me to this, and the willingness of an organization like Afriforum to fund this. It's not cheap. It doesn't come cheap.
If you were at a conference in Brussels on the law and someone said, I understand that I've read about what you're doing, who is Afriforum? How would you describe them to someone who didn't know anything about them?
That would be, it's very difficult for me. It's very political. I would say that it's, if you ask me at the legal conference, I said it's an organization that were willing to put their money aside to create an organization to ensure that everybody's equal before the law.
But that's not what Afriforum was created to do. Afriforum, you're working for a part of Afriforum, but the question would be, again, who are they in your eyes? If you had to describe them, how would you describe them?
You see, again, John, if they ask me that question, I would say that I can only answer questions from what I'm doing. I'm working with Afriforum. I'm working with an organization that approached me, never asked me for my political affiliation, never indicated which matters I should take. It's an organization that I thought was brave enough to create my office that will ensure that justice is done and that all are equal before the law. That's what I would answer.
You may answer that, but it may not be all that well understood by people because surely, Advocate Nel, with your vast experience and the big leap you're making out of a profession and a workplace that you have served and loved for many, many years, you would have had to assure yourself and felt comfortable about the other things that they do. I mean, if I came to you as a private businessman and said, listen, I want to fund this kind of thing, the first thing you would do is you say, hey, listen, to people you know, do you know what kind of construction work Perlman does? Has he ever been involved in a scandal? Have any of his bridges fallen down? I mean, that due diligence you would have done.
I did it differently.
Okay.
I was approached, and I trusted in myself, and I thought that I've built up a integrity profile over years. That will not change overnight. Whatever happens for whoever I work for. So I was confident enough to say that will not change, and I'm fairly confident saying, in going forward, please judge me, scrutinize what I'm doing. So whoever I'm involved with, and I think that's important because if I go to court, certainly a court must look at me as saying he's an independent person prosecuting a matter. I've been independent all my life as a prosecutor. I've never had a political agenda. I still don't have one. So therefore, that is what I considered in taking, as you call it, a leap.
086 00 959. Smadzaza calling from Kwatema. Hi, Smadzaza.
Hi, John. Hi, Advocate. You know, Advocate Nel has so impressed me that at some stage I thought of studying law because he really inspired me, and I know that I speak for many. I just want to say to you, Advocate Nel, I don't think it's too late. It's because we love you. I don't think it's too late to reconsider your move. You know, to joining the Afriforum in the last years of your career, it's like you want to tarnish the whole good image that you have built, you said, in over 30 years. It's like joining, saying there's so much evil, I want to join the devil, to partner with the devil to fight evil, you know. To me, so I'm really requesting you to reconsider that, and it's out of respect and out of love for you, and so that you end your career on the high that it deserves to be, you know.
Smadzaza, thanks. We'll take one more call, give Gerrie Nel a chance to respond to that. But first, Lucas and Alex, the calls are building up. Hi.
Hi, Mr. John and the advocate. Hi, how are you guys?
Fine, and you?
Hello, sir.
Yes, I'm good, yeah. I'm so proud for KFM to have someone like the advocate in serving studios.
Yeah, okay. Carry on, Lucas. I think if you've got your radio on, give it a switch off if you don't mind. We're getting some feedback.
Okay, yes. Can you hear me now?
Much better. Thanks. Go, Lucas.
Yes. The bulldog himself. It's so shocking to hear that he's moving from NPA to Afriforum. Like, there are the people that are making this country the best to be in terms of the judicial of this country. And as a young man in this country, like, it's a pleasure to hear someone like him in studio, KFM studio. I'm so proud of him, of what he has done for this country.
Okay, thanks. So Smadzaza admires you, but really wishes you weren't doing this.
I think I can reply to both by saying the following. The proof of the pudding is it what's the saying?
The proof of the pudding is in the eating. Yeah.
Yes. So if after a year from now we've had a successful prosecution of a matter, then it shows that I took the right step by going out and ensuring that there are no selective prosecutions, and that where there were any selective prosecutions, that we dealt with it. Smatsaza, my hope is that you'll phone me back in a year's time from now and say, we understand that how you started your career, it was just an extension by ensuring that everybody is equal before the law, and that where there were selective prosecutions, that you step in. Certainly, Smatzaza, I appreciate everything you said to me, about me, but judge me in a year from now on what I'll do.
So we're going to come back to this issue because a couple of other callers want to talk about that, but I want to make sure we take advantage of this opportunity as well. Advocate, now talk a little bit about being a prosecutor. When you decided to do law, was it with being a prosecutor in mind? Maybe a step before that. Why the law, and were you clear that a prosecutor was what you wanted to be?
Why the law? Everybody thought I'll become a lawyer. Throughout my schooling, everybody just thought I'll become a lawyer, mainly because they would always find me with a newspaper in my hand. I mean, I started reading newspapers from the day I could read. Not that
but very young.
Very young. Mm-hmm. And I've always had an interest in current affairs, and I really have a feeling for fairness. Mm-hmm. And I absolutely hate unfairness. And the only way for me, really to create a society that's fair and a justice system that's fair is to be a prosecutor and to do what I can. And John, throughout my career, lots of people ask me why did I not leave for the private sector? It's because the appreciation shown to me by victims of crime after a matter that they know that you tried your best and that they now feel that justice was done. That appreciation shown to me was worth millions and is still worth millions.
In going into the law, were you talk about your desire for fairness. So in going into a matter, do you have to have some anger towards the accused, or is it absolutely essential that whatever anger you may feel, you strip that all out? I mean, is there any emotion? Because you come across powerfully, but I don't know if you're emotional.
No, not at all. I've got no, I find myself during a matter feeling sorry for an accused. Mm-hmm. I've done that on many occasions. That I just think that, why did you not approach this differently? You're going through all this, and you should have approached it differently. Also, during sentence stage, I feel sorry for people. But certainly when I decide to prosecute a matter, I'm 100% convinced that particular person was guilty. Otherwise, I would not take the matter on.
Yes.
And then I really try my best to ensure that justice is done, but just that, to ensure that justice is done, nothing else.
You say you're unemotional, but do you have triggers? And I'm very mindful of your opening round of questions to Oscar Pistorius, where you said something to him and he said, I made a mistake. And you seemed at that point to say, okay, if that's what you're calling it, here we go. That you seem to, that seemed to escalate the matter in your bearing to another level. Am I reading too much into it?
Let me just say, I would really not want us to discuss any of the facts in the Pistorius matters. Yes. But as a principle, I do think that every prosecutor, every lawyer should conduct his business and in accordance with his personality.
Yes.
And I just think it's my personality. My personality is just that.
Let them know you're there.
Yes, and if somebody would challenge me and I would think that person is less than honest, I would try my best to get him honest. So I think it's a personality thing. You know, I can never be as cool and collected as Wim Trengove. I think he's just brilliant. He would never be me.
Yes.
But I can never be him.
I'm going to come back to the lines in a moment. I've got Simba, I've got Goodman, I've got Patrick, and I've got another caller trying to get through. But just one more question around the general practicing of the law, Advocate Nel. You spoke about the satisfaction you get from engaging with a family, for example, who've seen justice done in a court. And then presumably there's the flip side of that, where you didn't win and where you felt that somebody who had done something appalling has got away with it. What have you done with that over the many years? Do you still remember things? Do they still stick in the throat, or do you let it go?
I let it go. You can't really think and ponder about that forever. What helps is if I understand why.
Yes.
After after acquittal, I really spend time and understanding why. And if you understand the why, and then you accept the why, and you just move on. But certainly you're too busy with all the matters than to think about things that happened in the past.
Let's go back to the lines. 086 0000 959. Simba, hi. Good evening. Calling from Bramley. Go ahead.
Good evening, John, and good evening, Advocate.
Hello, Simba.
As the Americans would say, Advocate, thank you for your service. Now, I'm not entirely convinced, and I would like to ask you two questions. The first one, how do you reconcile yourself with joining Afriforum when it was lambasted at the highest levels of the legal system in the country by the Constitutional Court for being a divisive organization? How have you reconciled that fact in your mind before you joined? And then the second question is, why private prosecution? What is it really telling us about the judicial or the legal system in the country for someone at your level, in terms of your caliber, to be going into private sector to head private prosecution? Something is not sitting quite right in my mind in terms of what it says about environment. Please, could you just shed some more light on this? Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Simba. Let me deal with both of it. I've dealt with this, Simba, and the way I reconcile myself with anything is that I was approached with an unbelievable offer. For me, with 5 to 10 years of my career left, to be approached by an organization with an opportunity to create a private prosecution capacity, it's just amazing. It excites me. It just gives me a new feeling that I'm doing something again. As far as private prosecution is concerned, Simba, I think in general there's a feeling that we may have selective prosecutions. Now, if that is true, then certainly that's unfair. If somebody commits a crime, everybody should be equal before the law and be charged. So I think that perhaps I am in a position where I can really test the perception, if it's a perception or not, if it's true. If it's true, we deal with it. If it's not true, the perception will disappear.
I mean, you are in a position, having not even started, that your first case that you take on will be a selective prosecution, because it will be your first. It's not as if you can say, well, in 2017 I did this, and in 2018 I did that, in 2019 and I've done 6 cases, and if you look at them, there were 3 like this and 3 like that. So you're going to be bumping down this road and all its potholes, I would imagine, for quite a while. I mean, is that just something you resign to? Because the first choice you make will be a choice that some people will draw inferences from.
Yeah, except, and that's why I appreciate, hour-long program like this, where one can sit down and say, please understand, it's not as if we can go out and pick prosecutions. We will only have an opportunity once the National Prosecuting Authority decided not to. So the amount of matters we have, and then, John, if they decide not to, then only if there's still merit in the prosecution will we take it on. I mean, we're going to take a matter where they've decided on the merit, and most of the matters that they don't prosecute will be based on the merit. But that one or two matters. So to answer your question, I don't think we'll have 10 to choose from at first.
Yes.
I think, I hope that we'll have matters and that our selection would make it clear what we're all about.
Just going to the Facebook page, because I've ignored this, and this touches on the issue around, again, I suppose, the Oscar Pistorius matter. Takalani says, please ask Advocate Nel who paid for the resources utilised in that trial and the prosecution. I know for a fact that this country never uses resources like that in criminal cases. There was certainly a sense that because of the profile of the accused and the publicity given to the matter, the state put out its A-team with every single resource that they might need. And if an unknown person is stabbed in a bar brawl somewhere in a small town in the Northern Cape, that's simply just not going to happen. Is that not a reality that we have to accept as true, even if you will firmly say it's not desirable?
Well, it's certainly not desirable, but let me, it's a difficult question to answer, but let me say that in the matters that I've done in the last 10 going back 15 years, I always had enough resources and enough support from the state to do my matters. As far as the Oscar Pistorius case is concerned, I'm sure that we've spent a bit more and we prepared a bit more, but it was important. We sold our legal system not only to our own people, but to the world. And I think that, please don't call me arrogant, but I have to. If I look back at the Pistorius matter and everything was done, I sit back and I think it was a job well done from everybody, from the judge through to me, everybody involved in the court case. The way the court was managed, the way the registrar at the court building managed the whole process. What was exceptional, John, is that people would always complain that criminal matters gets postponed. You go there, it's postponed for a month, and it's postponed for 5 months, and so on. We never had one postponement. We started that matter, and we finalized that matter. And that we have to thank the judge for. She drove us, and she managed her court for that to happen. So certainly I think that, as you say, that there will be people saying, sitting in Mokopane, where I'm from, that they don't have TV screens and they don't have all that kind of things. But in this particular matter, it was important. We were selling our legal system.
Patrick's in Mapitla joining our conversation. We're with Advocate Gerrie Nel, talking about the law and politics and all sorts of other things. Patrick, hi.
Good evening, John, and the advocate there.
Good evening.
First, let me commend the advocate for a good job he has done. But secondly, I would like to concur with Simba. And thirdly, I am disappointed to have partnered with an organization like Afriforum. Was it not better, perhaps, to have partnered with people like Tulima Donsela? Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. Let's take one more question. Goodman in Kibler Park, hi.
Hi, John. How are you?
Fine, and you?
Mr. Nel.
Hello, sir.
Good afternoon. Good evening. How are you?
I'm nervous and uncomfortable in the media, but I'm trying.
I've got two questions for you, Mr. Nel.
Yes, sir.
The first question is, did you have any grudge with that young man, Oscar Pistorius, if I may ask you?
The answer to that is no.
No. Second question, are you aware that moving from the NPA, joining that Afrikaner Afriforum, what happened with those state funds that you have used to apply to appeal? Meaning, if you can just answer me, what's going to happen with Oscar Pistorius' appeal case? The one you have applied.
Okay, thanks, Goodman.
There are two answers. Firstly, let me say, I hear everybody saying, and I really understand and appreciate what you're saying about my move to Afriforum. May I just say that, should we not say that at least Afriforum is an organization that saw a problem and were willing to spend money on it and approach somebody to deal with it, with the particular problem. as far as the appeal is concerned, I have an unbelievable team that worked with me that will take the appeal forward. I think perhaps they're better off without me, and they might even do a better job than I would have been able to do. I have no problem and I've all the confidence in the team. I've had discussions with them, and I'll always be available to talk to them, but I don't think it'll be necessary. The Oscar appeal is in very good hands.
One of our listeners on Twitter who uses the hashtag #RememberMarikana wants to talk about the role of Glenn Agliotti in the Salibi matter. And this has come up a lot, Advocate Nel. When we talk about a judicial system, people cite that. And there's a discomfort with the whole idea of plea bargaining and the fact that people who have done things that would ordinarily be prosecuted can nevertheless find themselves in a position where they get some kind of immunity because they're part of another case. Do you have any misgivings about that process? I mean, I don't know to what extent you can talk about that specific matter, but is it a double-edged sword, and is it something that can sometimes go wrong?
Let me just say I've got no misgivings.
Yeah.
I really think that indemnity for prosecution is essential to get convictions. A corruption matter is by nature collusive.
Yes.
There are two people that talk to each other, one pays the other one. They won't do this in the public domain and under cameras like I am at the moment. So there'll be two people.
Yes.
So how do you prove that? Except to indemnify one person as a witness. In any of matters, I'm sure that people that feel uncomfortable, if you tell them that without offering somebody indemnity, prosecution would not have been possible. Weigh these two up. Either you don't prosecute at all, or you offer somebody indemnity and successfully prosecute. And that is how you have to weigh it up, John. It's not in any other way but to say, if indemnity was essential for a successful prosecution, then certainly I have to support it because there's no other way of doing it.
You mentioned corruption, Advocate Nel, and I'm going to rewind to where we started in our conversation back at 6 minutes past 6. In this, what I consider to be an absolutely essential bid to try and get greater respect for the law in our country, in all its manifestations, both in the breaking and in the resolution that we sometimes get in the courts. One of the complaints I often get from our listeners is that there's a real vigor to prosecute people in government around corruption, but there is not a great track record of nailing down white-collar crime where the people involved more often are white people in business. Now, firstly, do you think that's a weakness in our system, that we just don't have the tools? Are those cases notoriously difficult to prosecute? Your thoughts on what I'm raising?
Just that. It's notoriously difficult to prosecute. I've always said that, and please excuse me, but I'm a blood and guts prosecutor, so
yes.
I would do violent matters and murders and those kind of things. If you give me one of those matters, I run away.
Yes.
I look for a post-mortem. Other people look for an auditor's report. But I've got lots of friends that are doing exceptional work in commercial crimes. Those matters just take so much time, and it's so difficult to do. I think that we're really trying our best. But people that commit fraud at a grand scale, they really think it through. And to break that is impossible. And may I just then also return to the previous question.
Mm-hmm.
If we say it's so difficult, and if you have somebody that will give evidence if you indemnify him, certainly we will all jump at that. So, John, you've answered the question. It's just those matters are just so difficult to prosecute.
Okay, let's go back to the lines. We'll take 3 more calls. Rendani's in Bronkhorstspruit. Hi, Rendani.
Hi, John. How are you?
Fine, and you?
I just want to specifically greet my advocate. How are you, advocate?
I'm fairly okay. And yourself, Rendani?
I am doing very well. I must say that I feel very privileged to speak with you. I've seen you on the screen doing a great job for all South Africans and ordinary South Africans. And for that, I want to say thank you very much for serving South Africans with great pride. But coming to my question, I'll ask two questions that are a little bit related. One is that, Advocate, I just want to know from you that within the NPA, when you look at it, obviously maybe something you probably saw that you needed to be out to advance your passion. Did you exhaust all the options to advance your passion on the justice system within the NPA?
Let me respond to that, Rendani. I was willing to retire as a prosecutor, to go in 5 years from now to have a big function with lots of old people on it and everybody saying, well done, well done, well done. And then I was approached. I did not go out, Rendani, to look for a job. I did not go out to find a job where I could do private prosecutions. It came to me. It came to me through Afriforum, and it excited me. And Rendani, it's also not something that happened last month. It's been a conversation for a number of months where I really had to get my head around this and where I really had to think it through. So, Rendani, to answer your question, I did not go out to look for something different.
Tato's in Protein North, hi.
Good afternoon, John and Advocate Nel. Just two questions. The first one, I just want to understand more with the private prosecutions themselves. In an instance where the prosecutor against them is successful in that, is an avenue to recover the money from the state, and where they've been granted a certificate to prosecute him, the NPA takes the case back and makes delays, and they see that they could have, I suppose, for want of a better phrase, done a better job. Can they reapply to have first did the prosecution again? And then just last, I think the one is directly to Advocate Nel. What would he like us to know about his brand as, Advocate Nel, with a particular situation with the marriage with Afriforum?
Please, I feel utterly embarrassed if somebody says I've got a brand. I really don't have a brand. I'm a prosecutor at heart. If you say what I'm about justice, and I'm about doing the right thing. As far as the payment of fees are concerned, you're 100% correct. If we apply for and if we issue the knowledge prosecutor certificate, we're obliged to guarantee the cost of the other party. Because if we fail, we have to pay the cost of the other party. But if we succeed, then certainly we can claim all our costs from the National Prosecuting Authority. That's why they're obliged to jump in. Because at the time that they jump in, it's a cost-saving issue. So, that is as easy as it is.
Okay, let's take one more call. Sunny Boy is, I think, still holding from Benoni. Hi, Sunny Boy. Good evening.
Good evening, John and Mr. Nel there in studio.
Good evening.
Hello, Sunny Boy.
John, you've got a great guy there. Actually, that guy. I don't know, Mr. Nel, I think, with due respect, I think you made a mistake by jumping the gun to the Afriforum. There is still a time whereby you can still go back to NPA. But to me, when I look at the things that you were saying from 6:05 until now on, you are maybe a shy person, and you stick to your guns.
Okay, thanks, Sunny Boy. We're coming to the end, Advocate Nel. Time's flown past quickly, but I want to ask you this question. You've very loyally spoken about the sterling job the NPA does, but I want to ask you this, which maybe takes it away from criticism of individuals. Is the criminal justice system being under-resourced and under-trained in ways that is going to make it, and already is making it, difficult for it to do its job? For example, as you say, you deal with cases where there's blood, and that depends on the quality of forensic training, the quality of labs, etc., etc. Have we let some things slide? Is the ability to prosecute crime, violent and otherwise, perhaps not at the level it should be, and has it diminished over the last 5?
The last part of your question is easier. The last part of your question is easier, and that is, I don't think it diminished at all. Yes. I think that we're doing well. I can only refer to the stats. If we sit back and we tell ourselves that the NPA has achieved a conviction rate of over 80%, with the kind of matters that were given to them, with their limited resources, with the limited resources of South African Police Service, I think we're doing exceptionally well with what we have. And for that, we just have to say thank you every day to the men and women that really work hard and do their best for justice.
Well, Advocate Nel, a number of times in the course of the show you said, ask me in a year. So we're going to get our diaries out. We'll have you back in a year's time and we'll pick up this conversation. But for your time tonight, many, many thanks. And thanks for joining us on 95.9.
Thank you, Mr. Perlman.
That's it. Okay.